Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that this is my deep dive into a fascinating deck called the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light. And just in case you don't know what this is all about, let me give you a brief overview of what I'm doing. So what I do, it's very similar to the first deep dive that I did into the Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne-Towler. What I did then and what I'm doing now is I'm pulling a card for the deck. And because this is an unfamiliar system, it's a very different system from what I'm used to. It is neither an RWS system deck, it's neither a continental system deck. It's all in and of itself. It's very different. There is a thread of similar decks that run from the continental tarot system in up to this deck by C.C. Zane, but it's different. It's a side branch. And so because I'm unfamiliar and I'm doing this deep dive so that I can become familiar, I wanted a supporting deck to help me. So after I pull my card from the Egyptian Tarot, I do a 3-card spread from the Tarot of the Holy Light, which I'm getting used to. I'm getting more familiar with. I've cut my teeth on the deck in a deep dive, and I've worked with it for several months, and now I'm using it as a helper deck. And it's interesting because the creator of the Tarot of the Holy Light cut her teeth on this Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane. So there's a lineage that I'm following in a sense. This is all very interesting. It's all very exciting. And this is what I do. I pull the card from the Egyptian Tarot. And then I do a 3-card spread from the Tarot of the Holy Light. 3 cards, very standard. One is the situation or the energy. The second card is the challenge, which could be positive, something to reach for, to attain, or negative, less positive, something that could be an obstacle. And then the third card is the advice, a typical 3-card spread. And so then I live my day. And then at the end of the day, I record this video. And then after I do this video, I get ready for the next day. That's how I'm doing it. So that's what I did. And let me show you the 3 cards. Let me show you the daily draw from the Egyptian Tarot. Here it is. So you just saw those 2 cards. And are you wondering why there are 2 cards? Let me show them to you again. So there are 2 of the same card that I just showed you, right? One was a color version and one is a black and white version. So this color version is a newer deck. It's mass market. It's still readily available at a very reasonable cost. So this is the deck that I shuffle. I shuffle this deck and I pull my daily draw, and then I find the matching card in the charcoal gray and white deck. Now, I don't want to shuffle this charcoal gray and white deck because this deck, I believe, was printed or published in the year of my birth. So this is difficult to replace, and I want to treat it with care, and so I don't riffle shuffle this one, I riffle shuffle the color one. And then I compare, and you can tell that even in this very simple pip-ish card, there are some differences, right? Can you see the constellations at the top? The stars there are a slightly different number of stars, even in this very simple constellation, and they're in slightly different positions, right? So when I pull the daily draw and I pull the matching card from this deck, I compare that as well. And it's all very interesting and all very enjoyable for me, and hopefully for you too. But what do we see in both of these decks? We see that it is the 3 at the top. Over here on this side, we see both Capricorn and Virgo, yeah? And then at the bottom, we have a sword, and here we have Mercury. Now, if you're wondering, wait a second, Capricorn, Virgo, swords, what's up with that? Now, don't freak out. I know a couple of you will probably freak out right at this moment, but in this deck, the swords are the suit of earth. The coins are the suit of air in this deck. I told you it was different, and that's one of the differences. So the Three of Swords is the Three of Earth in this deck. That's why we've got Virgo and Capricorn. So what does this card mean? Now, the Three of Swords points to the Virgo decanate of Capricorn and its sub-ruler Mercury, which side right here, sub-ruler Mercury, from which these mutable aspects of cardinal Earth, vital energies enter the world. Through this constellation, which is Pisces Australis. Australis is the name of this, is the constellation. So before we get into all the details, Virgo, Capricorn, both of them are earth signs. Yeah. So we've got the Capricorn house. And in the Capricorn house, there are, of course, 3 sections called decanates. Now, 30 degrees of the house of Capricorn. And each one of those decanates has a sub sign. Yeah, so the first one is Capricorn of Capricorn. The second one is Taurus of Capricorn. And the third one is this one, Venus of Capricorn, the Venus decanate of Capricorn. And the planetary domicile, Venus is the domicile of the planet Mercury. That's why Mercury is now associated in this card with Capricorn. So, and also with this constellation, Pisces Australis. Now, what is the constellation? Let me show you that constellation right now, up close and personal. The constellation Pisces Australis is known in Greek mythology as the Great Fish. Now, maybe you're thinking, fish, constellations, that's Pisces. Yes, Pisces as well. But there's another fish, this one. Now, the Great Fish. And in Greek mythology, the Great Fish is portrayed as swallowing all the water, which is being poured out of Aquarius. Now, Aquarius is an air sign for most of us, but even though Aquarius is an air sign, the being in the constellation that we picture in the constellation is pouring out water, and this fish right here is drinking all that water up, which is okay. I mean, that neither good nor bad there. I mean, maybe perhaps avoiding another deluge on the earth. But also, the 2 fish of Pisces are said to be the offspring of this great fish, which is an interesting thing. Yeah, Pisces comes from this fish. Fascinating. Now, in Egyptian mythology, we've got another attribute for this great fish in the sky. This fish saved the life of Isis. So she placed this fish up into the heavens, and it became a constellation of stars, and all of its children became constellations or stars as well. So we've got the idea of this great fish being the savior of Isis, and also the savior of another god in Greek mythology. This great fish is a savior in many ways, which is perhaps something to layer into our reading of the 3 of Swords, or the 3 of Earth in this deck. So, what are some of the attributes of the Virgo decanate of Capricorn and its subruler Mercury in this card? Mutable aspect of cardinal Earth. Cardinal Earth, Capricorn is cardinal Earth, and Virgo is mutable. Yeah, let's get cleaned up and start moving into the next. So, one thing we've got here is the potential for idealism. Yeah, idealism, but remembering that behind the ideal, there is the potential for the practical aspects. So the practical aspects behind the ideal. So the practical being, what do we call it? Virgo. Yeah, Virgo is very practical, right? And the idealism of the Capricorn pointing forward as a cardinal sign would. So the practical behind the ideal in idealism. Also, we have the idea of organized activity to overcome adversity. Capricorn can face a lot of adversity as the beautiful ram tries to climb its way to the top of the rocky mountain. And Virgo is here to help organize it for Capricorn. Now, there could be struggles in business in this sign. Now, the mutable and the cardinal can sometimes get into conflict, right? Capricorn can feel held down by responsibility of the perfectionism of Virgo. There are also some very negative aspects of the upright version of this card. Now, there's some antagonistic relationships. One of the things was divorce. There are possibilities of arguments with a friend, false activity, underhanded methods in business. There's a layer of that as well in this Three of Swords and Earth sign. But I think for me, particularly in this reading of salvation, we've got the idea of the practical behind the idealistic attitude. We've got the desire for organized activity to overcome any potential adversity, any problems, and being careful of being burdened by responsibilities, because Virgo can burden you quite a bit. I know my mother's a Virgo. So that's how I saw the day as being colored, but also as the great fish, the one who's going to drink. I drink a lot of water, but I don't think that's what this card is trying to tell me about. I do drink a lot of water, but to be the one that carries others to safety, that protects those from deluge. So that's what I thought I was carrying into the next day. And again, as always, I wanted some extra help. I wanted to have a 3-card draw to help me unpack that idea for myself. And so I pulled 3 cards, and here are those 3 cards right now. You just saw those 3 cards. Beautiful cards. This deck is gorgeous, right? The 3 cards from left to right were the 8 of Cups, the Ace of Wands reversed, and the Chariot. So we've got Cups, Wands, and a Major Arcana. And above we had Swords, but Swords in that deck is actually Earth. So the major card for the day was an Earth sign, an Earth element. And then in the 3 cards we had from left to right, again, Water, Fire, and then a Major Arcana. So a nice balanced mix. And you'll see an interesting mix in another way as we look at the next 2 cards. But let's start with the 8 of Cups. 8 of Cups. In a Waite Smith deck, in the art of Pamela Coleman Smith, what do we see? We see those 8 cups in the background, a very dark night sky. We see a darkly robed figure with their back to the cups with a walking stick, and they're walking away from those cups, perhaps in the direction of a castle in the background, which they will probably have to pass over water to get to. And that's the card of leaving behind troubles and leaving stuff behind. In this cup, and that's in the upright. In this card, upright, what do we have? Now you see there's a sun figure right there. And above the sun figure, the figure with the sun for a head, there is the moon arching over, which is good because this is a cups suit, a water suit. And then the sun figure is sitting in a large tub. And you can see that large tub has other tubs, smaller tubs in front, and there's a plenitude of water. And it almost looks like there are can you see this? It looks like there are spermatozoa springing up out of the water, which is an interesting thing. But we see that the sun figure is sitting in perhaps a large tub of water, although you don't see the water in that tub, but there's plenty of water around, and there are these two huge plants on the side. And you can also see at the bottom that this is the sign of Pisces. The planet is Mars. So, what do we have? We have the Eight of Cups. Yeah? And the Eight of Cups points to the Scorpio decanate of Pisces and its sub-ruler Mars, from which the fixed aspect of mutable water's vital attributes enter our world. And it's a beautiful card, like I said. But I'm going to read this in a very simple kind of way. This card here, we've got the sun sitting in a huge tub. And where we have in the Pamela Coleman Smith drawn deck, a person leaving behind their disappointing, painful experiences in the past and moving forward on a path, hopefully, to brighter days in the future. Here we actually have the healing moment. We have the point of healing. This card is reminding us to grant ourselves time to detoxify, to detox. It's time to purify the body and the mind. You can see it's like a person in a hot tub, right? Releasing all the stress and all of the toxins that we've built up over time, and the toxins that we have gathered from perhaps toxic relationships, toxic experiences, toxic discussions and conversations, toxic thoughts that we have thought of our own volition. We have the call to take the time to detox in all of these baths. It's also the moment of metanoia. Do you know what metanoia is? It's a Greek word, and it means that moment when suffering becomes healing. A lot of us, especially today, wear our wounds as a badge. And to a certain extent, there is validity to that. There is help in that. Because if we're wearing our wounds, we have already recognized them. We have been able to describe them, we've brought them out into the light. But then there comes the moment where we want to say, it's time to let go. It's time to heal. It's time to change this poison into medicinal waters of healing. For this toxic experience and the pain and the wounds that I have experienced from this to begin to scar over, perhaps, to create stronger flesh, and for me to become the one in the process of healing and letting go. That moment of transformation is the moment of metanoia. So that's what this card is here to remind us of. And you'll notice that on the side of those somewhat turbulent waters in those tubs, we have these two plants that are beautifully fed, and they grow from the waters of our healing. Yeah, the waters of our healing pour forth into our environment, and they are they carry the nutrients for the growth of those people and our environment around us. It's a beautiful card, and a card of great meaning. And again, it's Mars in Scorpio, by way it's Mars in Pisces by way of Scorpio. It's the Scorpio decanate of Pisces, right? So that's a beautiful card, and it's meaningful to me, I think. But right next to it, right after it, was this Ace of Wands, reversed. Let me show it to you upright, because I love this card. Now, the Ace of Wands, we see the fire of the wands behind. We see a hand extending from a cloud. A lot of the aces in a lot of the decks, Tarot de Marseille, some of the Rider-Waite-Smith decks, we have these divine hands entering into the world through a cloud, right? And this hand entering into the world through a cloud seems to either be offering or ready to pluck the wand here. Now, the first time I saw this card, I saw this and I thought, oh, this is the ace of what? Of discs. But no, it's not the ace of discs. It's the ace of this wand, which is a plant, a small sapling, which is growing and perhaps needs or wants to be tended for it to become a beautiful tree or a beautiful larger plant at least. And do you see at the top this interesting occult symbol? Do you see that there's Latin in there? The Latin, from on the outside, it says occultum fiat manifestum. I'm sorry, let me try that again. Occultum fiat manifestum et vice versa. And on the inside, it says aqua cum igne tandem in gratium redit. What does that mean? On the outside, the translation is, the secret will come to light and vice versa. The secret will come to light and vice versa. And on the inside it says, and water with fire be at last in harmony again. So in this card, we have the potential for the harmony of fire. Naturally, it's a wands card, and water. Which is really interesting because this card came after this in the spread. Now, this was the end. Oh, sorry. Let me put it the way it actually came in the spread. Now, this was the energy, the situation, and this was the challenge. Now, another interesting thing here is the Ace of Wands, upright and reversed, well, is what? You see here, you can see here that we have Aries and we have Mars. So, this Ace of Wands points to the Aries decadent of Aries. Now, double Aries, supercharged Aries. Aries decadent of Aries and its sub-ruler Mars, from which the cardinal aspect of cardinal fire, vital attributes enter the world. Now, did you notice that? We had Mars here and we have Mars here. Right? We had Pisces and Aries. They follow each other in the zodiac, right? Pisces, the next sign is Aries, and they both have Mars as their attributes in these cards, which is what was really interesting. So there's a lot of Mars energy here in the day, and the day before we were lacking some Mars energy. It was added in by another card, but there was a card that was lacking its ruler of Mars, and here we've got Mars doubled up. So what is this card all about? This card in reverse. What is it all about, Alfie? It's about the premature termination of long-desired plans. Now, it could be a start that was spoiled or postponed. It could be that circumstances are not allowing the intended to either blossom or even begin. But there is still free choice here. We still have the free choice to focus on the desire, to make plans, to clear away obstacles, to empower and the inner change we want for us to move beyond any obstacles and begin to nourish and nurture our intentions. So this is beautiful. We still have potential in this card in reverse. So this card in this spread, for me, I believe, is actually the obstacle side of the challenge, yeah? Healing, but being blocked by perhaps either circumstances or having dropped the ball or some other reason, perhaps other people prematurely terminating or postponing the beginning of a process. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I put something here. So, when we think of healing, When we think of doing that work, that inner work, do we think of doing it in the public space or in an internal space? Right? We usually think of that healing, perhaps of this Eight of Wands. Some people go to public baths, but here we see the figure in a bath by themselves. Which is interesting because my charm cast for today, I think I've mentioned in the past, I have this charm cast tarot, which are little pewter charms that I do a daily draw, and I wear that tarot card for the day. And my daily draw for today was the Hermit. What number is the Hermit? The Hermit is 9. But before I pulled that card, today is what day? Well, for me, today is January 9th. And when I pulled this 3, the first thing that popped into my head when I saw this 3 was, oh, this is for the 9th. So 3 times 3 is 9. Now, the triplicate, the trine of 3, I don't know if that makes sense, but the triple of 3, the 3 of 3, is 9, which is the day that this card is supposed to be unpacking for me or revealing for me. And then I pulled that 9 of the Hermit, which was very synchronistic, I thought. And then I also had this idea of detoxifying, healing, moving past things, being careful of the potential blockage of intention. But even if that intention is blocked, that there is still the potential for focusing on the desire and clearing obstacles. And so, interesting, right? So what was the advice card for this spread? After we've gone through all that, the advice for this spread was the Chariot. Talk about clearing obstacles. The Chariot. What is the Chariot? You can see down here, we have the sign of Pisces. Not Pisces, I'm sorry. The sign of Gemini. The Chariot in this deck is Gemini. And so, the Chariot, Gemini, points to Gemini from which these mutable air vital attributes enter the world. And what is Gemini the domicile for? Gemini is the domicile for right, is the domicile for Mercury. And where did we see Mercury? We saw Mercury right here in the 3 of Swords, which is, of course, 3 of Earth in this deck. So we've got Mercury echoed here in the Chariot card, because the Chariot is the domicile, the Gemini is the domicile of Mercury. This is all really cool, right? So what does the Chariot mean for us here? Well, what do we see? We see this armed figure of a lady in a chariot. We see the 2 horses. We see the white horse and the black horse, right? We also see that instead of a normal shaped wheel, we have the sky peering out through us and the divine eye in that sky, taking the place of the wheel. So she is riding a chariot moved by the divine. And we see the clouds of the divine, the clouds through which a hand might appear, offering the wand or presenting the wand of the Ace of Wands. Possible. So in this deck, Charity, as Gemini, also emphasizes that idea of polarity. Yeah, Gemini, the twins, right? 2 different ways of thinking. Geminis have different ways of thinking about things, and their thoughts can sometimes pull them in different directions, just like these horses can sometimes pull in different directions. So here we have aspects of the self being tethered for great effect to different aspects of self, which could be like libido and awakening consciousness. And those aspects are harnessed to influence the evolution of each other. Now, each horse influences each other. They're not just pulling in other directions and ignoring each other. They have an effect on each other as they are being guided into the direction of the intention of the driver. So they are affected by each other, they affect the evolution of each other, and they also are working together toward a common goal. And that common goal is directed by the female in the armor in the chariot. So this female figure is moving matter with the mind of spirit. Yeah, the mind of spirit, right down there in the wheel. So we also have the idea of mental ambidexterity. Now, ambidexterity means two hands, right? But I don't know another way of saying that. Two-mindedness, mentality. Anyways, so two aspects of mind brought together. The left hemisphere and the right hemisphere brought together. Mental ambidexterity. The conscious and the unconscious brought together. Working in concert, working together. And the figure in the chariot could either be Athena. Remember the goddess Athena? The goddess of wisdom and warfare and ambidexterity, yeah? Handicraft. She could be riding this chariot to bring the gifts of wisdom to us mere mortals. Just like she brought the shield for Perseus to use when battling the Gorgon, right? Athena helps us as well with her wisdom and with tools. It could also be Sophia. Sophia aligning with the divine will, right there in this wheel. Aligning with the divine will and the cosmos, now functioning as one, moving matter forward into its evolution. So we've got that idea of bringing stuff together and moving forward past perhaps obstacles, but past obstacles not as in the sense of trying to smash them apart, but moving through them because we have united aspects. So that all makes so much interesting sense, doesn't it? Now we started with this idealism backed up by the practical, wanting to organize but not be burdened by practicalities or by responsibility. And the way to move through this, the situation is to detoxify and to be prepared for the potential of our little baby wand encountering some obstacles. But remembering that we can still plan and find a way around the obstacles. And how do we find our way around those obstacles? By doing this, by uniting mind. So what does this mean for me? What was my day? Well, my day was interesting. I had the first day of classes today for the winter camp. We started off by going up to an opening ceremony, which I could just sit at. And it was interesting for several reasons. The path up to the auditorium, the actually gymnasium, was icy, was very, very icy, which is odd because none of the other paths are this bad. And this one looked like every other path, but it was super slippery and it was steep in some spots. So there were some places where people just could not get up them, even with boots with good traction. They would take a couple steps and start sliding backwards. And so after trying that once, sometimes twice, people would usually go off of the path into the snow and trudge up the snow on the side. So I decided I was going to dress in my Sunday best, and I had nice leather shoes on. And actually, the leather shoes had a little bit more traction to them than the more modern boots in some cases. Now, they weren't as waterproof, but I got up a little bit farther than some other people, and yet still I started sliding back down. And once the sliding back down begins, fortunately, a couple of people grabbed me and I moved over to the side and trudged my way up through the snow in my dress shoes. Not a big problem. I wasn't unhappy by it, and I was just glad I was safe and everybody else was safe. And we all got up there. We listened to and clapped for the opening ceremony, which was very short, about half an hour. And then I went back down to my apartment because I realized I had not brushed my teeth, and so I went to brush my teeth, and then I went to class, and I got ready for class, and I did the 2 classes. And I had been warned, I don't want to say severely, but with the slightest flavor or the slightest aroma of reprimand, that the students I would be teaching today were probably not of a level to understand what I was saying when I was doing my demonstration class. I think I mentioned that in my video from yesterday. And so I went in prepared to take it really slow. But I was surprised. The students were, I won't say 100% of them. There were 15 students in one class. It's a really small class. That's winter camp. Out of those 15 students, I would say a good half of them, at least, were at a level of understanding and responsiveness that was equal to doing what I had prepared to do just off the cuff for my demo lesson. And there were a couple of students that needed a little bit more help, and maybe 1 or 2 students that were lagging, perhaps behind in comprehension, but they caught up. At least it appeared that they caught up. Maybe not immediately, but after a couple of minutes, they'd catch up, and then they'd fall a little bit behind, and then they'd catch up again. So I think it worked out pretty well. I didn't have to do 6 hours of classes as I had anticipated, because the opening ceremony and there was an advisor session took away the first 2 hours of the morning classes. So I only had 4 hours of classes, so it wasn't that difficult. And I think that we were able to move past any obstacles that could have been preventing our communication, our interaction, by my use of my theater skills, my use of doing things that would make the students laugh, to bring humor to the class. I acted some stuff out for them. I sat on the ground, and I was free to move around and to be with them and among them. And so I think that might be what this day was all about. Yeah, I didn't try to. I wasn't trying to reach for an ideal, and I was trying to. I think I did maintain a practical aspect of operating the class, of not presenting the class, but of progressing with the class in a way that brought us to a conclusion of understanding, of mutual understanding, and of enjoyment. I think there might have been maybe some healing, some detoxification in our interaction, perhaps. But I do think that the chariot was good advice. That I wanted to bring my talents together in one to move through the process of the class. And were there some moments when I wanted to balance the igne and aqua to achieve harmony? Yes, there were. Were there moments when I felt like maybe I was being knocked off of my chariot a little bit? Yes, there were, but not completely. And harmony was achieved again. And I think in achieving that harmony, the potential of disruption that this card in reverse has was mitigated. And perhaps with the chariot, I was able to bring this upright with the passion of Mars, along with the water of Pisces and the fire of, and the interest and the leadership of Aries. with the bringing together of logic and art in the chariot, I think I was able to progress with the class well, interestingly, with pleasure, with fun. And what do you think? Does that make sense? Am I making sense, or am I just rambling? I'd love to hear. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, friends. Yesterday and today I thought were really interesting. Yesterday was all about 8s. Today was about 3s and 9s, which are interesting numbers. And like I said, again, at 9, I got the Hermit card, which is, yes, can be isolation, and I was not isolated today. But it's also introspection. And I was looking in to discover what tools I had to share, because I had not prepared like stuff to present, like PowerPoints and stuff. I wanted to have an organic revelation of the material through the class, with the students. And that's, I think, what I was able to do, I think. I hope so. So again, let me know if that makes sense to you in the comments below. And friends, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. I'm trying to do one a day until the new moon in February. So get your notifications here. And hit the thumbs up button too. It helps the channel. It brings more eyes to the channel. And if you want a private reading with me, my email address is below in the description box. Also, below in the description box, there are links to get the Tarot of the Holy Light by Christine Payne-Towler, a beautiful deck in the Continental Tarot system, and also the mass market version of the Egyptian Tarot, which is available on Amazon. Now, if you use those, let me show it to you upright. If you use that link to get this deck, I don't get any extra money. Don't worry, you're not paying extra, and I'm not doing it to get money from you or from anybody. They're just there for your convenience. And also, friends, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.